Journey of Ruk Episode 10, Victories and Visions. The jungle was breathing around us slow and heavy, like something alive beneath the roots. 5 cycles of walking through heat and silence, our boots sinking into the mud where the old roads used to be. We had to move slow. The city born couldn't keep up. Their green was darker polished, though not made for the wild. The jungle goblins guided them gently, like parents guiding hatchlings through stormwater. Me, I was caught somewhere between. Not as bright as the wild ones, not as dulled as the city ones. My skin was the color of both halves of our world, trying to remember they were once one. Every step felt familiar. Every whisper in the leaves knew my name. The deeper we went, the stronger I felt like the jungle was remembering me, too. Mouthless led us at the front, silent as stone, moving like he was part of the trees. His scars shone faintly under the humidity, like old runes etched into living flesh. He didn't need to speak. The goblins followed him because the jungle itself seemed to bend when he passed. They say he's the only one the flings still listen to the only one in over 300 grind spans. When he called, they answered. He asked them for the drink of Khans, and they gave it to Crankulus, not for power, but for survival. That was only 30 or 40 cycles ago, back when the towers were still bleeding skyfire into the jungle. I still wonder why they listened. Maybe it's because he's a lurker born, not of Grizz's twisted blood. Maybe the flings saw something deeper in him, something older. Maybe they remembered him from before, or maybe the Father Beyond did. It was on the second cycle, under the ribs of a fallen crawler, that he finally spoke to me. The rain came down hard, burning like oil on our skin. He shared food from a small wrapped pouch, dried root and smoked moss. Said it came from his wife before he left Khan's Hope. Yeah, wife. Still alive. Still waiting for him in the city with their children. 2 for sure, maybe 3. He said that last part with a small grin. First time I'd ever seen one crack his face. One of them's close to my age. He told me how he met her cycles ago, when he first joined the jungle clan that saved him. She helped him speak before he had his voice box tech. Taught him how to listen to the jungle, to the hum in the dirt. She was his voice. He said the reason he remembered how to be heard. When the drones came and burned the rivers, she made him promise to save their people. That's why he brought them to Khan's Hope, the underground city, the last real stronghold. The city, they say it's built in layers, winding down into the earth like a coiled tower in reverse. At the center is Khan's heart, a living machine that hums when goblins dream. Some say it's the Father Beyond's eye. Others whisper it's a cage holding something that should never wake. I keep having visions when I sleep. A woman's voice in the dark, whispering through purple water, wrapping me in chains of light. I drown and wake up gasping every time. Mouthless never says much when I tell him, but I can feel it, the worry under his calm, like he knows exactly what it means. I think he's afraid to name it, and maybe I am, too. By the 3rd cycle, the nightmares grew worse. I felt something pulling not to kill me, but to claim me. When we rested, I asked him something that had been gnawing at me since the raft. If I've got Canic blood, does that mean I'm kin to the rusted Khan? He stopped walking, vines swaying around him like they were waiting for his words. I don't know, he said. The Grizz line never bore your name. Ruk belonged to the marked blood, the blood before the rusted. The marked blood, I said. The one that vanished? He nodded. Vanished because it killed itself. The last Ruk Khan died by his own daughter's hand. My heart stopped for a moment. His daughter, she was powerful, he said quietly, gifted and cursed. The priests tried to hide her name after the wars, called her the Lady of Chains. She led a rebellion, killed her father, your ancestor, and the priests chose a new Khan in her wake. That was the beginning of the Grimbalflip line. They married her daughter to him to calm the blood feud. But her son, he looked at me, eyes narrow, voice lowering. Her son vanished. Some say he went into hiding. That's the blood you carry, Ruk. I couldn't speak. My throat closed. The Lady of Chains, that voice in my dreams, the one who whispers join me. If she's the one who killed him, the last Ruk, then the visions aren't just dreams. They're her reaching through the rift, through me and Crankulus. He isn't of my blood. Not truly. He comes from the Grimbalflip line, born from her daughter, not her son. He's the blood of the priests, the chosen ones. The falsekins, that means we're related, but barely, to branches of a tree that rotted long ago. For some reason, that thought hurt more than I expected. Mouthless looked back, watching me wrestle with it. When we reached Khan's Hope, he said, "You'll see the Chamber of Memory. All that's left of our past is written there, the wars, the floods, the fall. Maybe then you'll understand why your name still matters." He kept walking, and I followed in silence. The fifth cycle, we reached the ruins, an old tower, half buried in vines. The metal still pulsed faintly with green light. Mouthless gave the order, and the signal was sent. Thunder answered. A goblin airship appeared, massive and scarred, lowering through the clouds. Its belly split open like a metal beast, swallowing us in light. We boarded with the others, the city goblins crying and cheering. 9 spans later, they told us to hold tight, we're leaning in. For a moment, I thought we were falling. I screamed before I realized it wasn't real, a hologram peeling the jungle away, revealing something far below. Khan's Hope. It shone beneath us like an emerald scar, stretching deep into the earth. The top level was a landing field, alive with tents, forges, and glowing runways. Beyond that, a great spiral descending into the core. And there, deeper still, I felt it, the hum, the pulse, the heart. When the doors opened, Mouthless turned to me. "Stay close," he said. "You'll see the truth soon." I tried to feel hope, but what I felt was heavier, a weight in my blood. The same I'd heard in my dreams, now echoing through the metal of the city. Maybe the jungle was never calling me. Maybe she was. And somewhere deep below, in the dark heart of Khan's Hope, the Lady of Chains was waiting. The elevator hums like an old god remembering. Mouthless and I stand side by side, the cage trembling as it lowers through miles of layered steel and stone. Holograms flicker on the inner walls, fractured projections of green, landscapes that don't exist anymore. Sometimes, if you look close, you can still see the static, silhouettes of the first Khans, banners rippling between the glitches. "These are the outer villages," Mouthless said, his modulator voice gravelly but calm. Above us, near the surface, the flings built the holofields around them. The shimmer you saw, that keeps the drones out. Beyond that, just a wide dead field and a few scattered clans that refused the dome. I looked up. The shimmer of the fields above was still faintly visible, rippling like trapped sunlight. For a moment, I thought I saw shadows moving across it, maybe goblins still working the soil, maybe memories. As the elevator shuddered to a stop, I followed him out into Khan's Hope. At first sight, the city doesn't look like a city at all. It looks like an idea that forgot to die. Bridges of metal and bone arc through the air, connecting towers carved from cavern walls. Cables hum with green current. Thousands of goblins of every hue I've ever seen move through layered walkways. I spot city cave goblins, for the first time brown to reddish-brown skin. Rougher faces, quieter steps. They look like carved clay given life. Mouthless leads me down the spiraling corridors, speaking as we go. "We built this from the ruins of the marked Khan's tomb," he said. "The deeper we dug, the more we found metal bones, sealed halls, old sigils. The priests say this is what the Kins called. The heart line, the passage between the outer world and Khan's heart below." Then, for the first time, I looked down. The ledge opened to a view that made me forget to breathe, a world inside a world. Khan's heart, far below, a single glowing crystal pulsed like a distant sun, sending threads of light through a vast subterranean forest. A great lake shimmered near its center, ringed with what looked like ruins and watchtowers. Tiny pinpricks of light dotted the landscape. Campfires. Maybe down there lived the ones who never joined the towers. Mouthless said, eyes hardening. The forest burned, the swamp friends, and the temple flings, the ones who stayed loyal to the first Khan's word. They were placed here by his hand. You don't go down there unless I'm with you. They don't trust goblins anymore. Not after Grizz the Fool. The way he said that name made the air colder. Back in the Hunger Years, he continued, goblins and flings lived as one. Then the famine hit. Grizz the Fool, last of the Grizz clan, fed flings to his own people. When there weren't enough flings left, he cloned them. Then he cloned himself. Thought he could cheat hunger and death both. Instead, he fed the bloodline to the machines. The Techno Lord's promised salvation gave us only graves. That was the day goblins became shadows of their own hunger. His voice broke on the static. I didn't ask more. We moved downward again, the metallic glint of the upper levels, fading into softer light. Moss and vines began to creep along the walls. Wooden houses appeared, mixed with the ruins of old shrines. The air here smelled of earth, of oil and roots. Mouthless stopped beside a small house built into the rock. Its walls were etched with runes that glowed faintly blue. "This one's yours," he said. "I'm a few doors down. If you get hungry, check the basket marked with my name. Don't touch the ancient stairs near the cliff. They lead to the old world places even I won't go. Eat from the basket until I speak with them. You'll understand later who they are." I thanked him and stepped inside. The place was small, one cot, a table, a cracked mirror. It was quiet, too quiet. I lay down and drifted. That's when the dream came. It began where the last left off, drowning, sinking into green and shadow. I fell through water, then stone, then memory. I saw a throne carved of obsidian. A goblin sat there, old, bright green, regal. He looked like me, if I had lived 100 lifetimes. I watched as he was stabbed through the chest by a figure in silver chains. She stepped from the dark, her eyes bright as molten steel. "The Lady of Chains, you are a handsome one," she whispered. "Blood of my blood. Bring me the drink of flames, and I will make you Khan. Bring it to Zarn, and you will have everything." Before I could move, a blinding flash and her voice turned to static. "No." Then I woke, choking on air. I stumbled outside, heart hammering. The city below was glowing faintly, the everlight crystal pulsing like a heartbeat. I found the basket marked Mouthless. Inside, smoked fish, fruit, and blue mushrooms that pulsed gently in the dark. Enough food for days. As I ate, I heard a soft shuffle. A small green figure approached, slender, bright, carrying another basket. A fling. The fling placed it beside the first and stared at me, studying, cautious. Their eyes shimmered like wet stone. I froze, unsure what to do. Then they nodded once and left, descending the old stairs into the depths. Mouthless had told me, don't speak to them unless they speak first. So I didn't. I waited till morning before going to his house. Only his wife was there, warm eyes, skin a deep green that shimmered faintly in the light. "He's in a war meeting," she said. "The battle of the tower's still raging. We've been at it 3 cycles now. You can leave a message if you like." I told her about the dream, about the woman of chains. She listened, expression calm, but when I mentioned the words drink of flames, her hand trembled slightly. "I'll tell him," she said softly. "He'll know what it means. Till then, feel free to explore." So I did. I found the library on the lower level, carved from an ancient cavern. Half roots, half metal. Shelves filled every wall, crammed with books that looked older than time. The Techno codex, the feral scrolls, the ballads of the rusted. I reached for one, then heard a voice. "You must be one of the goblins from Gut Punch," she said. "If you're trying to learn the truth, start here." I turned. A goblin stood in the doorway, tall, graceful, skin deep green fading to red at the tips of her long ears. Her eyes reflected light like molten glass. "Oh, but thank you," I said awkwardly. She smiled the kind of smile that makes you forget the world is ending. "My name's Virela. You'll remember it." She handed me a book bound in silver hide, The True Line of the Kins. Then she walked away, disappearing into the shelves like a memory. I stood there for a long while, staring at the title, feeling something twist in my chest. I didn't know then that she was Mouthless's daughter. Didn't know that the book she gave me would tell me who I truly was. and why the Lady of Chains called me blood of her blood. I went back to my little house on the cliff. The light of Khan's heart glowed below, steady and alive. I opened the book and began to read. When I woke, the dust on my tongue tasted like iron and ash. I had been reading again old goblin words, the kind you don't find in the Techno City archives. Words about the Khans before the towers, before Zarn, before the silencing. The first pages spoke of the first Khan, the one they call both father and tyrant. Depending on who you ask, to the Greys, he's a villain. To the Greens, he's a wound that never healed. To me, he's just history trying not to be forgotten. They say he burned the sky to drive out the evil within, and that his chains reached even into the dismal rift. Then came the marked Khan, who fought with his blood, not with machines. His markings glowed like veins of molten rust. He bore them proudly. Said they were proof that goblins could still bleed for one another. His last act sealed the rift, they said, and gave us the long silence that followed. I must have dozed off reading that, because next thing I knew, I was dreaming again. The water took me same as before, pulling me through a tunnel of whispers. And there she was, a green goblin woman, radiant and trembling, giving birth to twins, one boy, one girl. Her eyes met mine, as if she knew I was there. Then the water turned black. The scene shifted. The same woman, or one that looked like her, was surrounded by gray priests and synth doctors. Machines hummed. Lights burned white. Her skin began to pale, her green fading like rust in rain. She screamed, gave birth again, this time to a gray child. They praised him. They prayed to him. They said, the chosen of chains has come. She turned to the shadows, turned to me, and called out, blood of my blood, join me. Bring me the drink of flame. Talk to the flings. Give me the flame, and I will give you everything. Then a voice bright, blinding, cut through it all. No, and I woke gasping, like the dream had drowned me halfway. I wrote what I could remember and sent word to one of Mouthless's jungle soldiers. Needed food, needed calm. Instead, I got noise. 2 fling traders from the Ajuremire clan had just arrived, blue-tinted skin, eyes like old glass. They were unloading crates of something that smelled like fungus and gun oil. They whispered between themselves, "Hey, is that a new one? You always say that." "Yeah, but this one looks different." "You sure? They all look the same to me." "Ask him then." "Hey, you, green guy, what's your name?" I said, "Ruk." They froze, looked at each other, then both of them flings, dropped to one knee. I sighed, "Not again." I told them, "I'm no leader, just a fool who wants to read without getting stabbed for it." They laughed, said their names were Flung and Flicks, brothers. They kept grinning like they'd seen a ghost. "The guys won't believe this," one muttered. "The reader of dreams, the jungle whisperer, the rook of prophecy." I pretended I didn't hear that, ate some goose instead. When I went back inside, I found myself staring at the pages again, especially the ones about the rusted Khan, the drink, the broken priests. My thoughts drifted to Virela, the one with the red ears, wondering if I'd ever see her again. And then, there was a knock. I opened the door, and there she was, smiling. "So, you're Ruk," she said. I think I blushed. Maybe a little. "If you're here to tell me I'm the chosen one, or some nonsense, I swear I'll lose my mind." She giggled. "Don't worry, I'm not. My father wanted you to have these." She handed me a bundle of papers, brittle, stained, full of ink, older than either of us. "Your father?" I asked. She smiled softer. "Mouthless." That stunned me for a moment. I think she's used to that reaction. "I don't have his silence," she said, "or my brother's mouths, but I take after him and my mother, except for these red ears. Make me look a little weird." "Huh?" I blurted. "I think they're cute." She smirked. "Thanks." Then she handed me the stack. "He said these would help you understand the visions in your dreams. The one calling to you, the ones praying for the flame." We sat down together, and she unwrapped the first scroll. The top title read, in a faded black ink, that almost looked like dried blood. Final gathering, the rise of the rusted Khan. And beneath it, the words glowed faintly in the candlelight, like the paper itself still remembered the fire. This is Ruk. We've been reading until the wax ran flat and the air turned heavy. Me and Virela, side by side over these old pages, like two ghosts trying to remember our bodies. The candle sputters, and still she reads, her voice soft but certain, the kind of voice that knows how to speak to ruins. We started with the final gathering fragments, brittle, singed at the edges, smelling like smoke and old guilt. Then came the priest notes, their ink fading, but their lies still sharp. Then the fell-rackin' fragments, the kind that make you wish you hadn't read them, but can't stop. Each piece stitched another scar across the story the towers tried to bury. Virela leaned close once, her hair brushing my shoulder. She pointed to a line about the drink of flames, the same one I'd heard, whispered by dream and by blood. The flings obeyed him after 3 centuries, she read, eyes narrowing, not because he forced them, because he asked. Then she smiled, that sideways smile. That's the pact, the old one. Her voice said pact like it meant faith. We read about the greens that rallied beneath the rift, about the rusted Khan rising from fire instead of blood. One line said, when the towers fell and the eye dimmed, he rose rusted and whole, the one made from flame, not born of it. That part shook something deep. Other fragments spoke of the Lady of Chains, the daughter who killed her father, then was unmade and rebuilt by machine hands. The priests called her sin, called her warning, and erased her name like it was a curse. The text said she was turned into something greater, something Techno, a being without flesh, but full of memory. They said she was the last to stand between the rift and its hunger. Her story bled into another name, one older and colder, Mirexa. No one wrote that they were the same, not outright. Just enough overlap to make me wonder. Virela noticed too. She said, maybe they're sisters. Maybe the Lady of Chains was destroyed and Mirexa rose in her place. I didn't argue, but something in the dream still clung to her voice, that whisper, blood of my blood. We got lost in the old annotations, things scribbled by hands. Who feared what they were writing? A line read, the heart line will crack when the eye devours. Virela said maybe devour doesn't mean destroy. Maybe it means join. Maybe the eye is a bridge, not a beast, she said, tracing the word join with her finger. Maybe it sews together what was never meant to touch. The way she said it made me think she'd seen the eye before or dreamed it like I did. We read until our eyes burned and I couldn't tell if my pulse belonged to me or to the pages. I laughed once, she did too, and then I must have drifted off because I was falling again. The purple water came first, then the sound of low, rolling hum like an engine under my ribs. I saw the eye tower, but this time it wasn't whole. It was shattered, its core spilling light like bleeding glass. From that light came her, the woman again, the lady, green and silver, beautiful and terrible. She reached through the glow like she could touch my heart from across worlds. You think you've won. The voice wasn't hers, it was deeper, broken, almost metallic. The veil within, I think the dark one, the one that eats thoughts before they form. I will rule all, it said. The rift will open again. Then her voice came, cutting through his like silk through oil. Blood of my blood. Bring me the drink of flames. Give it to Zarn. I can make you Khan. I can give you me. She called herself a Techno lady this time, not a Lady of Chains. It didn't make sense, the names blurred, but her tone was the same. Then the flash came, light so sharp I thought it would split me, and in that light a voice shouted no, not hers, not mine, not Mouthless's, something older, angrier, made of flame and memory. Then I was above the world again. The colors rolled across the land like breath, green, purple, red, white, then green again, and I thought, this is the song the rift sings when it dreams. I woke up shaking. Virela's arms were around me. She must have stayed the night without realizing it. The candle was out, her hair tangled from sleep. Her eyes glowed dim green in the dawn light. I sent word to my father, she said. You were whispering about flames. He'll know what to do. I told her what I saw. Every word. Her face didn't change, just her breathing. Later that cycle, Mouthless returned. His armor was dusted with ash, his eyes hollow. He listened to my story and then said, quiet as thunder, they destroyed the tower. The rusted Khan himself tore it down. Final day of the 5-cycle assault. The eyes gone. He looked past me, like through me. We thought we won, but I don't think victory feels like this. Then he stood abrupt and called for guards. I have to move, he said, half to himself. There's more to do. And he was gone. By dusk, guards lined the path to my door. More stood down at the Fling Temple. I asked Virela about it, and she said, he told me to stay, to keep watch. Her voice trembled, but not from fear, from choice. We spent the next cycles reading deeper. We found texts about the Khanless Purge, about the Fifth Gathering's decision to erase their own names. There were lines about the blind archivist who told them, silence will protect you longer than gods. In one of the books, a half-rotted ledger, there was a margin note that read, if the rift opens, the lady will not be satisfied with flame alone. I felt that one in my bones. Virela bit her lip, thinking, maybe she wants not just the drink, but the blood that carries its right to pour. You, Ruk, you could open both doors. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Then maybe I should burn the key. She smiled, sad, maybe, but even keys dream. We read more of the Thelrakan scrolls, their creeds scratched in metal ink. We see no color. We hear no false word. Their initiation rites spoke of the Khan's hand, a shadow order that watched for the next heir by the tremor of his dreams. When I told Virela that, she just whispered, maybe they're still watching. Later, over dim light and leftover tea, I told her about the lurkers, how the text said they might be true goblins reborn. She smiled without mirth. Or just the end of goblinkind, she said. Depends who writes the last page. She told me about her childhood, about how she'd learned glyphs in the tunnels below Khan's Hope, about a Fling priest who taught her to bind memory into clay. They don't write things down, she said. They remember them. They pass memory like bread. Then she looked at me, eyes deep green, fading to red at the tips, like dusk and dawn had met in her veins, and asked, do you think the lady remembers us, or just what she lost? I didn't answer. I dreamt again that night. The lady's voice was closer now, almost tender. Bring me the drink, Ruk, from the Flings. I could give you everything. She said everything like it was an old word, worn smooth by longing. I woke with my hands shaking, the taste of rust in my mouth. When dawn came, Virela went to send her father another message. I sat by the ledge, looking over Khan's heart, the forest, below glowing with the pulse of the crystal at its center. Little lights moved between trees, maybe Flings, maybe worse. The world breathed. I thought of the lady's whisper and the Techno lady's promise, and wondered if they were two voices or one echo split by time. Virela returned later, quiet. Before she left again for the market, she turned at the door. Be careful, Ruk, she said, and her voice caught on careful like it hurt to say it. When she was gone, I looked down at the pages again, the words swimming in the candlelight, and all I could think was, they erased her name. But iron remembers, blood remembers. Maybe she does too? If she's real, if she's calling, maybe she thinks I can still hear her. Maybe she's right. End of cycle log. End of piece. This is Ruk. Cycle 26 started like a whisper. The air was thick with paper dust and candle smoke, and me and Virela were still combing through the old fragments, the ones from the Heartline vaults. This time brittle scrolls, tied with cords made of old sinew. Every page smelled of time that shouldn't be remembered. She read beside me, fingers tracing the runes with that careful patience of hers. Then voices outside. 2 guards. I heard one whisper, what do we do? Then the other, nervous, can I poke them? The first hissed back, no, you fool, they'll kill us. Ask what they want. I frowned, set the parchment down, and moved to the window. Outside stood a cluster of small shapes. The mist around them shimmered, faintly blue from the city's lower lights, flings, dozens of them, staring up. When they saw me, they began to chant soft at first, then louder, overlapping until it sounded like rain on metal. Ruk, Ruk, Ruk! Their little masks blinked, and their hands moved in strange rhythmic patterns, half blessing, half warning. Virela peeked over my shoulder and laughed, a warm little sound. "Well, the fling's like you," she said. I just gave her a look. Later that day, after the chanting died and the guards relaxed enough to breathe again, Virela said, "Hey, we should go out, look around the city. You know, learn more while we still can." So we did. The flings were still there when we left, watching, but not following, standing in rows near the path that wound through the underforest. It felt like walking through the eyes of a god that hadn't decided yet if it liked us. The city above felt different now, alive, wary. We wandered through the mid-sector markets where the vines tangled around neon lights, and the glass floors glowed from the old reactors below. Goblins passed us wearing trench plates and wire-threaded cloaks, their eyes reflecting the pulse of the towers. Some nodded when they saw Virela. Others avoided her entirely. Everyone knew her father's name. We found a strange hum near one of the old transmission spires half buried under debris. A goblin was working there, grumbling as he slammed a wrench into a rusted signal plate. His skin was pale gray-brown, his eyes mechanical and twitching. He noticed us and squinted. "You're blocking my light," he muttered. I stepped forward. "What are you building?" He wiped his hands and smiled a crooked, wary grin. "Signal beamer. Gonna send broadcasts through the crust, up top and down deep. City goblins think I'm dead, but they'll hear me soon enough. I'm Grizz, or what's left of him. Clone, probably. Been struggling to make this thing work all the way down here. But thanks. Friend, once this beams up, Grizz Underground is back on the air." He offered a hand. I shook it. His grip felt like electricity, pretending to be skin. Virela smiled politely. "You're starting a news network? Something like that," he said, and went back to hammering at the dish. "World deserves to know what's still breathing." We left him there, humming a half-song about truth under grime, his voice fading as we walked. Cycle 27 came with quiet. For the first time in a long time, I thought maybe the visions had stopped. I told Virela as much, and she smiled like someone half believing a prayer. We read again, more slowly now, savoring the lines. She showed me an old priest's confession about the drink of flames, how it could burn the blood clean or bind it forever. I laughed and said that sounded like every choice I'd ever made. We talked more, too, not about prophecy or towers about us. I told her about Gut Punch, about how the smoke had blinded me for 3 cycles straight, about how I only lived because her father dragged me from the wreck. She didn't speak for a while after that. Then she said softly, "He always said saving one life can save 1,000 if it's the right one." I didn't know what to do with that, so I just looked away. Cycle 28. The city trembled again. The rusted army had returned from the I-Tower assault. Their march sounded like the city's heartbeat coming back wrong. But instead of battle, they brought a feast. The victory was brutal, but they'd survived, and that meant celebration. Virela and I sat together beneath the banners strung across the main hall. Mouthless was there, speaking quietly with the captains. Then him, the rusted Khan. He rose, his armor glowing with faint, molten cracks, his voice sharp and strange as he spoke to the crowd. We tore the eye from the sky. "Brothers, the city stands again, but the war below still breathes. We are not done. The rift still watches." The hall echoed with cheers and the clang of iron cups. I tried to focus on the food, the laughter, Virela's small grin, but the air shimmered oddly, the edges of the room bending like glass under pressure. Mouthless walked up to the rusted Khan, their heads close, words drowned by noise. Then they left together through a back corridor. That's when the world began to tilt. At first, I thought I was drunk on the fling ale. Then I realized I wasn't drinking. The voices in the hall slowed. My sight dimmed. The noise stretched thin. And she spoke again. You could do so much better. Join me, Ruk. You can have me. Bring me the drink. I can save you. I can make you whole. I can make you Techno. Her voice slid like oil through the light. I saw her shape green, gleaming, endless. The lady, chains in her hands. I tried to scream, but my voice broke into static. Then another flash of light. A voice, deep and raw. No, I am Goblin. The green flickered to gray, then to red, then to green again. I saw something small shift, gray skin turning green. I didn't understand. Then came the screams. Too many. Like the city itself was crying. Chains wrapped around my arms. I was pulled down into black water, into the rubble of a city already dead. Mist thick as blood. Purple skies pulsing. Then another pulled a city shrinking below me, drowned by a flood. I saw a goblin made of shadow rise from the wave. Heard a voice whisper, "He is not the threat anymore." Light again. Then I was standing in a chamber, watching a birth. 3 infants, to normal. The third a goblin green as light, but with no mouth. The priest wept. Virela screamed. Then the purple-red sky again. This time filled with goblins in white cloth and gas masks, marching across a dead landscape toward a broken tower. The sky bled and the tower breathed. Then I woke. I was lying in Mouthless's house. The air was heavy with incense. Virela was holding me, whispering something I couldn't understand. A priest scribbled in the corner, and across the room, the Ruk Khan. "Leave us," he said quietly. Everyone but Mouthless obeyed. Virela lingered. She brushed her hand against my cheek. "I'll be right outside. See you soon." She kissed my forehead and slipped out. I told them everything. The lady's voice, the flood, the mouthless child, the march of the white-clad goblins. The Ruk Khan's face tightened, more anger than fear. "What do we do?" he muttered. "He keeps seeing the tower." Mouthless rubbed his temples. "My spies say they haven't even started to clean up the wreckage. Whatever power lingers there, it's waiting." He turned to the Khan. "If this keeps happening, the visions will kill him. We need to take him to the flings." "Kill me?" I croaked. Mouthless knelt, putting a hand on my shoulder. "It'll be all right, friend. We'll keep you safe." The Ruk Khan stepped forward, voice low and final. "You are more than safe. You are our prophet." "I'm not a prophet," I said. "I'm just Ruk." He only smiled, a grim, tired smile. That evening, Virela and Mouthless helped me down the long stairs beneath the city to the underforest where the Fling Temple glowed in its bioluminescent blue haze. Dozens of flings gathered, waving as we approached. They built a fire outside the temple. I was told to lie down beside it. Their priests surrounded me, chanting in voices that sounded like stones sinking through water. Virela held my hand while Mouthless stood guard. The ritual burned cold. I saw colors twisting at the edge of my vision: green, violet, rust, and white, and then nothing. When it ended, the lady's voice was gone. My head was quiet. I thought maybe, for once, I could sleep without chains. It worked, for now. But what came next? Evil played its hand soon enough. Cycle 29, this is Ruk. I woke slow, the kind of slow where the world lets you keep breathing for a while before it remembers to demand anything of you. Virela was there, curled like a page beside me, eyes half open. No purple water, no chains. For a stupid second, I believed it was over. We read, we ate. I have a basket now. Mouthless said it should be marked with my name. A small thing, but a small thing means a life here. Little flings came by, 2 of them, waving and chanting the little song they sing, Ruk, Ruk, Ruk. Their masks bobbed in the doorway like gulls. They left a bowl of steaming root stew on my step. I ate with my hands, thinking about how strange it is to have folk bring you food because they like your name. Soldiers still paced the lane in front of my house. Honest, fierce men and women, plated in patchwork armor. They look at me like they're waiting for the bell to ring. I don't sleep like I used to. Virela sat with me after breakfast and taught me things I never learned in the city. Not language or history, things the city thinks are useless. She taught me customs. The right way to offer a fling a basket, don't touch the rim. The rhythm to clap at a funeral, so the dead don't sleep angry. How to fold a Khan-marked cloth so it keeps its luck. She taught me the names of clans and folk like a lesson in a map. That isn't on any of the Techno City screens. She said, listen, if you're to walk the heart, you need to know who is who. So I wrote them down, slow. Jungle goblins, bright greens, leaf taught, the ones who still sing to trees. City greens darker, smoke darkened skin. Born in towers, eyes full of schedules and scarred silence. Cave goblins, the cave burn brown to reddish, like clay left in the sun. They build with stone and song. Force burn old tribes down in Khan's heart, keepers of the wild rights. Swamp friends slow, patient folk who read water like ink. Flings small, blue to pale green, memory keepers. They live between beast and priest. Lurkers mouthless, red-skinned in some tales. They belong to the tunnels and the hush. Hobgoblins larger, broad-shouldered, often found hauling or guarding. Gorgs huge, mutated brutes. Some blue, some scarred. Feared, sometimes used as beasts. She smiled when I tripped on a name, like I'd stumbled into a joke she'd known all her life. We were mid-lesson, Virela showing me the right tilt when handing a fling a coin when a voice came from the lane. To guards, new ones I didn't know, whispering loud enough that the whole street could hear. One said, "Get Ruk, get Ruk, they'll kill them, get Ruk." The other answered, frightened, "What? Why are we poking? Can we poke? I want to poke." I heard Virela hiss something sharp, and then other voices, "They'll kill your kind." A fling's voice, high and thin, rose in the gap. He killed our guard. My stomach folded like wet cloth. I went outside. The fling standing at the temple steps looked like a broken wave, hands raised, faces hidden behind their masks, eyes like wet glass. The chanting stopped when they saw me, but their fear did not. One of the elder flings pointed at the temple ground. There were spots of something, dark and damp. 5 flings were dead. 2 of our goblin guards lay crumpled like broken branches. Someone mouthed Ruk, and I heard it like a bell. Virela grabbed my arm. Her voice was small. "They'll blame you. They think your guards killed them." Her teeth clicked. I didn't hesitate. We ran together down the stone steps, through the bracken and moss, to the temple where the drink of kins was kept, or where it used to be kept. Lanterns bobbed ahead of us. Flings brushed past our shoulders, eyes shining with a fear I had only ever seen in dreams. At the temple, we found chaos. Flings with poles and spears formed a rough ring. Guards stood on the far side, shocked faces under helms. Mouthless's men held position, but the crowd pressed. I saw the dead fling masks cracked, their colors dulled in the dim. To goblin guards, mine, not mine, lay on the steps, blood soaking the stone. A fling elder pushed through and pointed at the guards near the gate. They took the drink, she hissed. They did it. We saw them. Hunt them. Her voice shook like a struck drum. I moved forward. I expected my chest to break at the sight of so much loss, to feel hollowed like the tunnels. Instead, I felt cold clarity. I walked up to one of the soldiers standing by the fallen flings and watched him wipe his hand across his jaw, lazy motion, a gesture to remove paint. The smear came away, and under it the skin was pale. Not the green I expected, but gray. Gray paint had been rubbed over green skin. The guard flinched. I said, loud enough that both flings and men heard, "Stop!" The flings fell silent like the sea when it stops its singing. This was not green. I pointed to the smudge in the soldier's face. "These are grays." The crowd breathed like rain. Someone else, a fling, a boy shouted, "They have the drink." One got away. He pointed down to the river path where tracks led like angry thumbprints. But it was hot. The flask was still warm. Mouthless arrived then, like smoke gathering to make himself whole. He pushed through the ring of flings, put his large hands out, and spoke in the deep calm of a man who had bargained with storms. He called for order. He told the flings to steady, to show him the wound and the way the tracks led. He didn't shout. He listened. They said, a team of gray goblins came at dawn. Faces painted to be green, moved like wolves, struck fast, and one escaped with the drink. The rest fell back into the tunnels. The flings found the dead and the wounded. The guards were found over by the edge, their paint smudged by haste, not by guilt. They were not killers, they were victims of disguise. Mouthless looked at me, eyes older than his face, and said low, "This was a set. Someone wants to light a war between us." His voice was a blade wrapped in cloth. "We will not burn for their games." He turned, and his shadow moved toward the rusted Khan's hall where the council met. I heard the quick whisper of steel on leather as he gave orders. Virela squeezed my hand like a rope. They took the drink, she said quietly. My chest beat like a drum. The thought of the drink, hot and alive, held by a stranger, made my skin feel thin. The fling showed us the heat-stained flask, flung aside where the thief dropped something. A little cinder still smoked from its mouth. The remaining flask? Gone. Someone had run with it like a torch to light a pyre. One fling said, "It ran toward the lower tunnels. It ran toward the gray hives." That name sent ice into my veins. Soldiers stood down as Mouthless spoke. He used the word gray as if it were a key to a lock. The crowd lowered their spears. The flings stopped their wailing and searched the tracks for the thief's boot prints, not for the color of a guard's armor. The truth had a way of making the crowd breathe again. Mouthless went to find the rusted Khan. I watched him go, the war chief's shoulders square, a man who asks the world for answers and sometimes gets them back in blood. He left with a handful of his captains. The city held its head as they passed. The last I saw before the edges blurred was the flings placing the broken flask pieces into a small shrine, their hands careful and quick like the healing of a wound. They closed their eyes and chanted, not for revenge, but to remember. That felt like the hardest kind of prayer, not to erase, but to hold what's lost. When they quieted, Virela and I stayed. I went back to my room with my name on the basket and sat down alone. The books called like old friends who'd been waiting for news. The words could not fix what someone had stolen, but they offered maps of where the theft might lead. I read about prophecy bits and pieces, stitched together in margins and sloppily. Spelled notes. If the drink is moved, the heart line will stir. A false green will burn the trust. The thief will wear a face that is not his own. My hands shook reading it. The last fragment I let the candle show me said, "When the flask warms, the old blood remembers. When the flask walks in gray, the cities weep." I folded the page and put it to my chest. My name felt heavy there. Mouthless did not return until late. He came with the Khan and others' faces carved by war and worry. They did not speak loudly, but there were words passed, curt and clipped. The rusted Khan's voice was low. I heard only a whisper. "This is not a signal to the heart. This is a blade to cut us." I sat with the papers through the night. I read every scrap I could find about who would benefit if the drink fell into the wrong hands. The list was longer than the money the city had stolen from its people. Power has many mouths. By the time the candle guttered and the fling's distant songs faded to a single, patient hum, I had the sense of a map not of roads and bridges, but of people and loyalties. I rolled the list into a tight fold and slipped it into my basket. As I closed my eyes, the last thing I knew was the city breathing around me, uncertain, watchful, not yet broken. The drink was gone, one frightened thief away. They said the flask was hot, hot like a colmeth. And I thought, without knowing how to stop it, I must find out who took it. End of cycle log. End of the thing I thought would be the worst.